In 1964, when the city of San Francisco built Geary Street, many historical African-American-owned Victorian homes were demolished, and the city gained the land through eminent domain. It was then that it was decided that there needed to be a new model, a model for people to own property again. One of these models was the Midtown Park Apartments in San Francisco's Western Addition. But during the construction process, the builders went bankrupt. It was then that the city of San Francisco stepped in. They finished the building process and gave the building to a nonprofit organization to manage. The idea was that as the residents paid off their monthly rent, they would be paying off the lease and eventually own their apartment. But that unfortunately was not how it all played out. Phyllis Bowie is a Midtown Park Apartment resident and a head organizer of Save Midtown.
I think it says a lot about the city that I was born and raised in, that the value of community and culture historically, and I'm not just talking the Western Addition and African Americans, it's also, and Bayview Hunters Point, it's also happening in the Mission with our Latinos.
Residents say that during the span that they have lived there, the city never did any upkeep on the building.
We're really talking almost 50 years of the Mayor's Office of Housing not doing any maintenance, and they have admitted to that, and they're on record saying that they've never said I'm sorry, but they've said yes, we have not maintained the property like we've maintained other properties, which is zero maintenance unless it's an emergency. And so then we all the residents here, committed to an increase of $50 that would totally take care of that operational deficit every month. We could still have our security, we could still have our landscaping, we could still have all the great services that we had to maintain such a beautiful space. And the Mayor's Office of Housing said no, it would be too much of a hardship on the residents. So they denied our increase, which then now leads to, now they can come in and say, oh my goodness, you guys have run this place into the ground, so you don't deserve the lease. We need to give that to somebody who can manage it better, and that's Mercy Housing of California.
In 2013, the Mayor's Office of Housing decided to break the lease and awarded it to Mercy Housing of California. In most cases of affordable housing, people pay 30% of their income. This means that the majority of the residents' rent went down, but those that made a little more saw their rent jump up. This meant that now they really didn't have the money to cover maintenance or repairs when people's rent started going down.
No, now it's really off. You're not even bringing in as much revenue. When we were overseeing it for it to be a small deficit, now it's a huge deficit.
This made the argument for demolition even stronger. Bowie and others feel that the building management change was really a way for the city to move them out permanently.
Well, they said it was because it was in such a blight condition, and they're still saying that. Then the next thing they did was get rid of our rent control. That was huge. We're like, what do you mean? How can you do that? There's one little sentence in the rent ordinance that says, if the property is owned by any government entity, it's null and void by being protected by the rental ordinance. If I would have known, that's the whole thing. If you guys want to do this, do it earlier on. Give me an opportunity to go on with my life based on I'm not going to be living here. I don't have rent control. It's going to be 30% of my income. There's so many options I could have had 20 years ago, 15 years ago. To my detriment, I relied on the city was either going to give me this as I paid off the mortgage and I was going to own my home. All the kids have come through here, my family's come through here with that understanding, and or be protected by rent control. And both of those I relied on the last 20 years. So it makes me very sad because it's put me in a really difficult position to have to even think about that when I could have been thinking about that when I was at my high earning years. Real estate wasn't as high as it is now. I was born in a city that was a melting pot. I was born in the 60s. I loved my city. I always thought my city was a liberal city and a loving city. So if Midtown is to be destroyed, which is really the last standing housing structure not subsidized in the Western Addition, we're going to be invisible. It's going to be literally gone. Like I walk down Divisadero Street or I walk down Fillmore, I'm invisible. There's no people that look like me. There's nobody who even says hi to me. There are no stores I can go in to get my hair products. There's no... So, boop, you're gone. Now we're caught north of the Panhandle or Lower Pacific Heights. Literally, the Western Addition disappeared.